Yeah, it's a good song. It's a good song. Anyway, oh, postcards. Mario and Luigi Brothers. Oh, it replaces the title theme. There's a Bowser Jr. and Buddy, top left. Chilliam and Bernadette on the right. There's Ark. Where's his dad? I think he might be there, and he's in the background. He's kind of a distance away in the leftmost picture. Yep, good postcard memories. So, I guess it's time I review Brothership and give my thoughts. They're actually not. It's not as bad as it could be. Um, so I don't know if it's gonna actually go to like I'm gonna try pressing between these two buttons periodically in case it decides to go through a movie while I'm talking and distract all of us from postcard memories. So this game doesn't feel in a number of respects similar at all to any of the preceding Mario and Luigi titles. It really kind of falls apart in a number of respects. There are only three overworld abilities in the entire game. The spin ability, the power to roll or roll faster, and the fire and ice ability, which was woefully underutilized and made up for very limitedly in the very final dungeon of the game. There was one area in the game where it was actually mandatory to be able to use it, and then one section of the game where it was optional to get additional chests, and that was on Off and On Island. So the fact that you only have three overworld movement mechanics and one of them is underutilized makes zero sense. Most of the other games had multiple movement mechanics and they were used and spread out more even-handedly throughout the game. So it's very unbalanced in that respect. You don't have a lot of bro moves. You get 10 the entire game, and they're spread out so long between the acquisitions that several of them feel very stale and overused extremely early. I tended to default to the hammer attack because of how quick it was to be able to go through the bomb derby, just because of how fast it was. Um, the story progression was better as the game went on, but unforgivable at the beginning. It wasn't until hour 3 and 4 where you got your first bro ability, which was the red and green shell ability, and you also had access to the hammer at that point. And again, I've mentioned this multiple times leading up to this particular point. That is very odd and unusual for a Mario and Luigi game to do. You want to really sell the RPG aspect of being able to utilize both bros in combination with each other. And you can do that with their regular attacks, which is something that you could not do in the previous games, but you really needed to show off more of the bro moves early. The last game that we had released in the Mario and Luigi series was Paper Jam in December of 2015. It's been 9 years since the last Mario and Luigi game. And if you're trying to tap into a new market, which I'm sure Nintendo is at this particular point, since it was 9 years since the last time a game came out in this series, then you're probably going to want to make sure you at least start with the green shell or red shell moves. It was so surreal to fight the first boss of the game, Garumbla, and not have access to any special moves, just regular attacks. It's just very odd and unusual because even in Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario, and other moves, you'd have access to special abilities by that point of the game. You just didn't in this. The achievements that were available in the other Mario and Luigi games were heavily nerfed in this. Mario and Dream Team Paper Jam and Bowser's Inside Story especially made achievements more meaningful. There were larger charts. There were better rewards. There were more mini games associated with the game. There's no longer satisfaction with being a completionist in this game, and I've mentioned this to some people. I may have mentioned it already to Joe in Discord. But ultimately, the thing is, this game introduces story paths, which I think is kind of a huge misstep. Basically, the game tells you at several different points of the game, you can either choose to do X with your time or choose to do Y with your time. And the thing is, if you choose to do X, you can't do Y. You miss out on some bit of story or some bit of something else that Y offers. Ultimately, it doesn't affect like completionism. Like you can still do all side quests if you miss those mandatory things. It just makes you realize the entire time playing it, I'm not experiencing the whole story. This kind of sucks. It's different from games like Final Fantasy VII that had like the dating sequences where you're like, I'm picking this date and this therefore I'm missing like six other dates because the game just like continuously shoves in this face like you have these two choices, you can't pick the other choice, and it's just like after like the seventh or eighth time, it's just very disheartening to just not be able to complete everything. The game's humor is a huge miss textually. The game is just not textually funny. It's visually humorous and at times just downright hilarious, but it does lack the distinct polish that I think Paper Mario, especially Super Mario RPG, had that this game doesn't. Even Origami King, I felt had better textual humor than this game. Like every punchline they tried to deliver, it felt like they were just patting themselves on the back each and every joke that they told, and I just did not appreciate it. The combo system with the plugs, because that's really the big collectible in this game, is getting the shine energy and the plug energy to recharge your plugs. I felt that that felt relatively flat. Basically, a lot of the abilities, some of them were interesting. You'd have auto heal abilities, auto syrup. You could auto revive a character when one of the characters is down with one up. But a number of the abilities just became relegated to your regular attacks can do explosion damage, your regular attacks can do dizziness or burn an enemy or do ice, and with this other thing you can drop a spike ball in their head. And if you use the wave ability, you can spread it to other surrounding enemies, which sounds wonderful, except anybody who's going to do any fight in this game with like three or four enemies is going to take one look at those mobs and not do a normal attack and go through all the extra busy work of having things drop over, spread all of these status ailments. They're going to go right to a bro move that hits everybody. And so, while the plugs are at least cool in theory and you can make some wicked combos with them, most of the time you're just going to pass over them to use a bro move that hits every enemy anyway. So, I don't think the plugs were as good as they could have been, simply because you could just bypass them to just do the bro attacks. If you could boost the damage of a bro attack with one of the plugs, use that one until it runs out of charges, but otherwise, not that great. Um, the game also doesn't perform very well on the Nintendo Switch. The loading is extremely long between cutscenes, between island hopping, between battles. It's just very noticeable. It's kind of up there with Tears of the Kingdom with how long it takes for certain areas to load. It's absolutely not optimized for this console whatsoever. It really needed to be on the Switch too, which wouldn't bother me so much necessarily, except every other Mario and Luigi RPG that came out really catered and focused and acclimated itself to the console that it was on. Partners in Time, for example, utilized dual screens, not only for like the map feature, but also enemy attacks in battle could sometimes extend up to the second part of the screen, and you'd have to have Mario and Luigi react to projectiles or things that are coming up from the higher screen on the lower screen. That was pretty awesome. And Bowser's Inside Story utilized the microphone feature for being able to shoot fireballs, as well as turning the console on its side to be able to do some of the giant battles. So there were a lot, and Dream Team did the same sort of mechanic with its giant battles in the 3DS era, whenever it finally had utilization of that technology in its fight as well. And it also tried to do the gyro controls, which, while they were disastrous, was still an attempt to make use of the hardware and the system that it was on in some kind of a clever and imaginative way. This game did nothing imaginative with the Switch itself, which is kind of a shame. That's why I feel like, you know, I'm gonna get to the good parts. It's not all bad, but it just doesn't feel like a Mario and Luigi title, just because it doesn't really do much to stand out with the actual hardware itself that it's on. Now that being said, You think I'd say all of this and like give the game like a terrible, terrible, terrible score. I'm actually going to give the game a 76. I actually really liked the game despite all of its inherent flaws. It's absolutely not very fun and streamable the first 3 or 4 hours of playing it, but the game definitely picks up. It falls off and falters towards the end. That's why I can't get much of a higher score. I would never give the game an 8 out of 10. I think the game just has way too many inherent flaws that I already listed. But it's one of the games that it, this year has been mainly a struggle until I had played Ancient Roman. I had been falling off of RPGs lately. I've encountered too many bad RPGs that have been in the modern era. It's kind of depressing because like RPGs right now is you take a story, you see the story over here, I'm gonna hit it with a hammer, the same hammer that Mario and Luigi used the entire game. I'm gonna hide this little story bit behind a side quest, this one behind another side quest, and oh, this one's gonna be post game. We're not gonna release this part of the story nugget. It's gonna be DLC, and it's like you can't tell a full story anymore. Like you don't. Not only do you not do that, but you also try to make very, very deep lore without making the characters interesting. And the cutscenes are long and they're boring. And I'd really begun to become very despondent with RPGs lately. And then I played Ancient Roman, and I'm like, this game actually moves. It has a story. It has characters that, while not the best story and not the greatest characters, it made me realize, okay, this is one of the reasons why I was playing RPGs. They weren't always like this. This game feels very much like, in a number of respects, Lunar. And I don't, and I mean it in the way that the world resonates with each other. When you arrive on Ship-Shape Island, all of the characters have a certain amount of dialogue. As the story advances, the dialogue changes. When you initially arrive on the islands, it's the same sort of situation. There's a certain set of dialogue. When you connect the island back up, the dialogue changes. When the Gloam event happens that shakes the world, it's modified again. When Reclusa is revealed to be the big bad of the game, and the flowers appear everywhere, the dialogue changes yet again. You get to see basically the rise and fall of so many character relationships in the game, and like I feel like very few games explore that well without getting so deep in their own lore just to make everything uninteresting. So I had a lot of Lunar vibes from playing it, at least in that respect, because I hadn't played a game that updated dialogue quite to this extent. Talking like showing like the different notes from Ark's father to him throughout the entire, playthrough, having him, talk about his father, having his dream be of his father because he hadn't been able to see him since Socket presumably killed him, and, having his dream be, him being in the dream flower, being able to see his father again for, what we thought was going to be the only time because we thought he was dead until the ending confirmed otherwise. Very sad. It's a very sad thing that happened. We saw like a father and son that were not very close to each other starting to make amends. Then the father was afflicted by gloam and started to ostracize his son. And then the son got um, put in the flower as well, and the son started talking about like, oh, my father finally is acknowledging me and all of these things, and it's just this is like, ugh, it's just so sad. I mean, it is genuinely sad. I mean, it's got a goofy, coat of paint, but like when it tries to be, serious, it can definitely be serious and dark, but it can also be extremely silly. And I think textually, like a lot of the jokes might be able to might turn off some people the same way it turned me off. But overall, I don't think that the game I did anything like necessarily egregiously wrong. I do think it is a shame that the game at the very, very end just had like a monster dungeon instead of spreading a lot of these other ideas more organically throughout the rest of the game, especially like having a little bit more ability to use the fire and ice command, because that was the one that was really underutilized. That having that spread out more would have been good, been fun. Where's my boss rush? Where's the ability to fight every single boss one after the other? Where's what the previous Paper Mario games, the last couple, had done that this game hadn't? You had the battle challenges, but once you beat them, they're done forever, so you can't revisit them. So that's sad. But yeah, I mean, all things considered, considering this was a game that I played for exactly 2 streams, and I'm like, no, I'm playing this off stream, only to realize, oh, this game actually gets much better as soon as people stop watching it. And coming back to it, no, I respect it. I don't think we're getting another Mario and Luigi game. I think this game killed it. I think this game effectively killed the series. I think people, I mean, honestly, I can't expect everybody to be as forgiving of this game's flaws just because I find the characters in this game cute. I find their designs cute. I mean, for outlets, they're distinct enough from each other to make me not realize like I'm staring at an outlet. Like a lot of the times I'm not just acknowledging this is stupid, I'm staring at an outlet. I feel like they're very different designs from one another, like they're distinct enough. But I think enough people are like, this game takes too long to load. You only get 3 overworld abilities. It takes forever to get bro moves. I hate this. I hate this entire experience. And I believe me, I can get it. Like I can completely understand that. That's a definite flaw with this game's pacing and storytelling. And ultimately, IGN and a number of these places, they didn't, not only did they not like the game, they failed it. Like they failed the game outright. They gave it a 5 out of 10. I don't acknowledge the game like as a failure, but if we're looking at a Mario as it being a Mario and Luigi game, I think it's definitely a failure when you look at it contextually from like the rest of the series. I think it scores. I mean, I basically went from it being higher than Partners in Time to probably right around where Partners of Time is. And I don't think of Time is a bad game. It's just extremely linear. Like there's no side content, there's nothing. um, is it too praised? I have not. If it's been too praised, I have not heard any praise. I've only heard bad things about this game, and I think I listed them all off like one after the other towards the beginning. But I've not heard a lot of praise. I do think that the character interactions, like the tearful sad goodbye at the end, and the way that the world just kind of resonates with each other, those are all things that I think are done well, and I wish more RPGs would do. Like, make me care about the characters, and then, like, the story and plot and everything else, I might be more inclined to follow. But if I can't even appreciate your game on the surface level, why am I gonna dive deeper to like understand your greater lore? Like if I'm not gonna if I can't, there's no hope for me wanting to go any deeper. And I don't think a lot of games realize that. They're just like, we have we have great lore. It's gonna be amazing. You're gonna love the DLC twist we're gonna throw at you. And I'm just like, I don't know. I like characters. I like to clap when they clap, and I like to applaud when they applaud, and feel sad when they feel sad. I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't give it a 9 or a 10, or an 8. I would give it. I mean, I'm happy, giving it a 76. I think it's a bit better than just a solid score, but it's not like a must play. I'm not going to be like, you guys have got to play this game. Now, Dream Team. Dream Team is absolutely an I insist you play it. Despite its experimentation with the gyro controls, it's actually a phenomenal RPG with a lot of creative ideas and Yoko Shimomura's best composition in the Mario and Luigi series, and possibly any game. That might be controversial, but I think it's some of her best work. Not, I mean, comparable to what she did in Super Mario RPG, because she experiments with a lot of ideas. Yeah. All right. So I have said my piece. Uh, that is Brothership, and I appreciate everybody stopping by. Mario and Luigi, at least for the time being, is done. Unless I revisit one of the old games someday, I don't know. I wouldn't mind revisiting Dream Team. It's amazing. But for right now, Lunar is next when I come back from my vacation. And I really, really am excited because I have not played that game in over 2 decades, and I have so much memories. I have so many memories to relive through that game. Yes, thank you, my brothers. Yes, thanks everybody. I appreciate everybody getting on this brothership, and take care. And I guess we're doing anime in about 2 hours or so. So we'll see everybody for anime. Bye.